Hello, lovely womb bearer. I am Steph Sunshine. I'm a herbalist, doula, and womb wellness coach. And today in this video, I'm going to teach you how to track your cycle using the fertility awareness method, which in my opinion is the most reliable and empowering way to take charge of your fertility. So super simple. You just need a chart which looks something like this with different temperatures and your cervical fluid, and you need a thermometer, just a basic thermometer to take your temperature every morning, and then you just have to take your temperature every morning and observe all of your fluids. Very, very simple, and charting it like this allows you to see an overview of your cycle, exactly when you're ovulating. So whether you're using this for birth control or conception, or just to have an awareness of your cycle and what's going on. Also, if you're working with a practitioner for reproductive conditions or irregular cycles, this gives a very good overview of what is happening within your womb and your cycle. So pretty simple. With your temperature, any chart will look like this, and there's a link underneath this for a chart that you can print up and use. You can use an app, but it's a lot easier to use the pen and paper method, and it gives you a much better overview. And there's just something special about pen and paper instead of using the app. So every morning, within an hour or two of the same time, you take your temperature as soon as you wake up, like the second your eyes open and you roll over, grab your thermometer, put it in your mouth, take your temperature. Most thermometers will save the last temperature you took, so you don't have to worry about actually physically sitting up and marking it on your chart at that time. What I do is when I climb into bed at night, I turn on my thermometer, mark my temperature from that morning, and then set it aside and repeat. So a chart will look something like this with an array of temperatures from 96 to 90 whatever. And so it goes like 96.8, 96.9, 97, 97.1, 0.2, 0.3, so on, 98, 98.1, 98.2. And those decimal points actually make a difference, and you will see. So the beginning of your chart is always the first day of your period. So this here, just put that there, and I'll explain this part after. So when you mark your temperature, it's going to look something like this. It'll be sort of in the lows for a period of time. And then it'll spike right after you've ovulated. Your temperature will go way up, and then it'll stay kind of in this range until the end of your cycle, unless there's a reproductive condition or you've conceived, then you may spike again, and it'll go right to the end, and then your temperature will drop back down into your beginning phase region, and that's when you know your period is going to start. So this would be the first day of your next period. Now, this is just a 21-day chart, and just for the sake of size, chances are you're going to have a lot more days, and if you only have a 21-day cycle, there's a good chance there's something going on there. But just for the sake of explaining this is kind of what it's going to look like. So that's the temperature. Really easy. Just circle the numbers. If you miss a day, just put a little line through, and it should make sense as long as you have most of the days. Now, just be aware, if you have a fever in the morning, don't confuse that for a temperature spike, just if you're using it for natural birth control. So then this portion that you have to be aware of is all of the fluids that come out of you. So obviously the first part of your cycle would be your bleed. So you would fill this in with a filled in red dot. So let's say you have 3 full days of bleed. And then on your last day, you have spotting. So you just do a dot with a circle around it, or really whatever symbol makes sense for you. That's just kind of the traditional one that you go with. And then most people will have, we're actually just going to change this just because this chart's quite small. Most people will have at least 1 or 2 dry days before the sticky cervical fluid starts to come in. Depending on the length of your cycle, you may have more or you may have less. So just for the sake of this, there's 1 dry day, and then sticky cervical fluid will come in. So we fill that in. Now, sticky cervical fluid actually feels sticky at the entrance of your vulva, like it almost like glue between your lips. And it shows up a little bit crusty on your underwear, which I know can be embarrassing, but this is totally normal stuff. So give yourself permission to just let that shame go. It's totally natural and a thing that more women should be talking about, which is why I am doing this. So you have the day of sticky, and then it'll evolve to, well, let's say you have 2 days of sticky. Then it'll evolve to creamy. So you can see this is the box, so you fill in that 2 box, and so creamy, it builds up, it gets a bit more lotiony, like it's thicker. And if you were to touch it with your fingers and pull your fingers apart, it'll form little peaks like tiny mountains. So then we have 2 days of creamy, and then you'll generally only get 1, maybe 2 days of egg white. But so let's just say this, and then we get egg white coming in here. So we feel that. So you see this nice ascension of your cervical fluid rising up to your peak ovulation day. So this is your peak. This is when you have the highest chance of getting pregnant. So if you are trying to conceive, you want your partner to unload 2 days before that, so he has nice, fresh, healthy sperm on this day, and then make love on that day, and there's a high chance that you will conceive on that day. So if you're using this for birth control, you're not going to want to have intercourse on that day, or really any of the days where you have cervical fluid, because this is what keeps the sperm alive and carries it up to allow conception. So then after, so the egg white is clear and looks like egg white. So if you were to stretch it in between your fingers, it actually stretches right out, like identical to an egg white, really. So it's unmissable. And then your temperature will spike, egg white will disappear, you will go back to dry, or just have normal vaginal moistness. Totally normal to have secretions all through your cycle, because the uterus and the vagina are a natural cleansing mechanism. So dry or general moistness, we still just use a line like this. If you're getting discharge that is yellow or odorous, then you would make note of that on a different section on your chart, which you would see if you were to download it, which would come under like fluid description, and you would just write in yellow, odorous. But you would still mark a line for dry, just to show that you are not fertile during that window. So, and then this would continue all the way through to the end. Your temperature drops, and then the first day of your next bleed. So this you would put on your next chart. And I always put a dot at the end of this chart just to show that I finished the chart, but you would start a whole one over with the first day of your first bleed on the chart at the beginning there. And then you can see at the top it says the cycle days. And that's really it. Now, some people with the fertility awareness method also check their cervix, just if you're not getting enough cervical fluid. It's a secondary method for seeing how fertile you are. So the cervix will either be low, firm, and closed at the beginning, around here, And then as you lead up to ovulation, it'll go higher, softer, and it'll open. So the way to tell the difference is to just get into a squat position, insert your longest finger, and then feel around. You will feel when it's firm, it feels like the tip of your nose. When it's soft, it feels more like your lips, like very supple. And generally when you do that, you will reach that cervical fluid and you will notice that moistness. Again, this is a very intimate practice with yourself, but is not something to be ashamed of, and we should be very comfortable with our bodies, comfortable enough to check these things and observe these things and be able to observe our fluids, because they're a part of us and they're there to tell us what's happening in our bodies and to give us the chance to be empowered and to take charge of our fertility rather than putting it into the hands of someone or something else. And when we begin to do this and observe our cycles, it gives us a really good awareness of our bodies and ourselves and a greater sense of comfort. And then the more you get into it, the more you will begin to understand the different spikes in your cycle and a good awareness of your hormones and what else is going on there, which can also explain a lot of other things going on in the body. So then beyond these things, those are the basics for the fertility awareness method, and that will give you a good overview. Aside from that, on a chart you will normally see like womb sensations or breast tenderness, and then like fluid description, where you can actually describe like this was lotiony, formed peaks, stretched to 2 inches, or describing your bleed, like if it was really light, very heavy, what color it was, if there was a lot of clots. Just the more detail that you want to add without causing yourself stress will give more insight to your body and what's happening in your cycle. And then other things that people tend to track when you really go deep into it, again, don't stress yourself out, only add what makes sense. But when you get comfortable, this is a very easy practice that really doesn't take a lot of time. So adding in things like the moon phase or stress, travel, diet, exercise, your sleep, life events, those things can all impact our cycles and just what's happening, the length of them when we ovulate and stuff like that. And then obviously if you're taking different supplements or herbs that could alter your hormones or your fertility. So that's a good thing to make note of. And then your mood. So tracking our mood throughout our cycle is a really great tool, because naturally as women we go through a bit of a wavy emotional cycle. And when we're aware of our moods and how they shift throughout our cycle, we can be more conscious and tuned into how to nurture ourselves and give ourselves a bit more ease when our emotions are a bit higher or if we're feeling a bit lower. And also a great awareness of when to really take advantage of our high energy, happy time. So that's it. That's how you track your cycle. So, like I said in the comments, if you're watching this on YouTube or if you're watching this through Womb Mystery School, the chart is either in the comments or just under your practices section. And if you're interested in something like Womb Mystery School or diving deeper into your womb health, womb wellness, feel free to just reach out to me for a consult at earthmoonwomb.com. Thanks. Have a lovely day and happy tracking.